As World War II ended with the atomic bombing of Japan, a secret war commenced, ushering in one of the most terrifying periods in recent history. Scientists in the Soviet Union and America set to work designing even bigger bombs, culminating 50 years ago in the biggest man-made explosion of all time, a single bomb which could wipe out millions of people. Half a century on, we'll uncover the story of this secret struggle. The race to build the world's biggest bomb.
Look at that. It's all consistent across the board. Yeah. What's the interval on that? Nothing there. Okay, we're going to have to pin down location on this.
In October 1961, technicians at a US military monitoring station close to Washington, D.C. received startling news. A shockwave on their seismograph appeared to come from a place far from any earthquake zone. From Russian territory inside the Arctic Circle. There was only one possible explanation for what looked like a mini earthquake. The Soviets had a bomb many times bigger than anything the US had built. One of America's key scientists at that time remembers when the news came through.
We were impressed. That meant they had a deliverable 50 megaton weapon. That was pretty scary.
A weapon more than 3,000 times bigger than the Hiroshima bomb. Agnew knew exactly what that meant because he was there right at the beginning. As a brilliant young physicist, he worked on America's wartime Manhattan Project. Agnew flew on the historic mission to Hiroshima in a B-29 shadowing the delivery aircraft Enola Gay. His task was to measure the yield from this first atomic bomb. In Germany, in 1961, the flashpoint was over who should control Berlin. Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev faced off against John F. Kennedy.
Khrushchev decided to do something about it and built the Berlin Wall, which came remarkably close to starting a war. Khrushchev called in his scientists and said, let's show the Americans what we can do.
What Khrushchev wanted was a 100 megaton bomb, the biggest of all time.
It was a deliberate threat. He said, let's build a really big one and show them what we can do.
The scientist Khrushchev summoned was Andrei Sakharov, the brains behind the Soviet bomb program for the last decade. Boris Altshuler studied under Sakharov and was a close friend for 20 years.
He didn't consider it as some tool to kill anybody. It was a tool to defend us, our country, from being killed.
Sakharov had 3 months to produce the biggest explosive device of all time, dubbed the Tsar bomb, or King of Bombs. It had to be small enough to fit in a plane, yet still produce a force 6 times bigger than America's Castle Bravo. This would be a 3-stage weapon, rather than the 2 stages of the American bomb. An atom bomb would be the fission detonator, compressing the bomb fuel in first one thermonuclear reaction, but then another.
The scientists once thought about making a bomb that would be 1,000 megatons. And that would be a perhaps 4 or 5 stage weapon to get that much yield. It wouldn't be useful because once you get above 100 megatons, the fireball is the thickness of the atmosphere of the Earth, 10 miles. And any further blast is just going to go out into space. It's not going to do any good.
Sakharov was working under orders. But as the bomb neared completion, he insisted on one vital change. To limit the potential fallout, Sakharov amended the design to 50 megatons. Still, the most powerful object mankind has ever made was now ready to explode. As dawn broke, the crew assigned to carry out this historic mission were given their final briefing. Mission Control was a military airbase in northern Russia, 900 kilometers from the drop zone. The crew had been hand-picked, and their aircraft had to be specially adapted. The Tsar-bomb, weighing 27 tons, had been fitted with a parachute and would be dropped from an altitude of 10.5 kilometers. The bomb would fall for 6,500 meters before detonating. Enough time, it was hoped, for the aircrew to escape the devastating explosion.
There were real concerns. Sakharov said, now they do something which was never earlier happened on the history and on the earth. To foresee exactly what will happen, when the shock wave came to the airplane, an airplane fell down about a kilometer. But it was very high, so they didn't perish, but it was almost broken.
The most powerful man-made explosion in history produced a mushroom cloud which peaked at 64 kilometers, around 7 times the height of Mount Everest. Buildings 100 kilometers away were destroyed. Windows were shattered 500 kilometers away. Monitors who picked up the shock wave had been expecting something momentous, but nothing of this magnitude.
We were really impressed the fact that they were able to airdrop that thing. And even more impressed when we realized that had they used much more uranium in it, which they could have, it would have been 100 megatons. It was really amazing.
The implications were clear to the analysts. If the Tsar-bomb were dropped on Washington, D.C. and detonated at an optimum height of 600 meters, the initial fireball would incinerate everything and everybody within 5,600 meters. People 20 kilometers away would suffer third-degree burns. Most buildings 30 kilometers away would be destroyed, releasing more than 3,000 times the energy of the Hiroshima bomb. It would kill over 1 million people instantly, perhaps 3.5 million in total. The altitude at which a bomb detonates is a critical factor. Dr. Martin Kalinowski was asked to determine what happened to the fallout from the Tsar bomb.
The big difference is that the Tsar bomb was exploded at 4 kilometers height, whereas the Bravo test took place close to ground. But there is a second issue about wind speeds and directions.
This is a snapshot of the plume after 6 hours. Ground zero is marked here with the red star. Different colors are indicating the part of the plume at different heights. The important thing is there is no vertical transport, neither downwards nor upwards. the whole plume is traveling towards the east.
Particles transported with fast wind speeds had no chance to reach ground. It took 48 hours before any fallout reached the ground. By that time, the very short-lived radioactivity had already decayed, and the concentrations were very low.
The low initial fallout of the Tsar bomb was still too much for the man who built it. Sakharov's own estimate was that 500,000 people worldwide would suffer in succeeding decades as the radiation deposited by the huge cloud slowly decayed. In a remarkable turnaround, Andrei Sakharov became a fierce critic of nuclear testing, until both sides agreed in 1963 to a treaty confining further tests underground to prevent fallout. The race for a superbomb was ended, and Sakharov was ultimately awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1975.